Oh no. I thought that this might be quite a useful camera angle, but the reality looks like you've just got a view of all of my chins. So maybe not. Oh well.
A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase.
That guy's hat was good. Hopefully he walks back this way. So this is Ross-on-Sea, where I grew up, and it's a lovely, sleepy little town, sandwiched in between bigger towns. But a couple of weeks ago, I was here riding my bike, and it was school half term, and the tide was in, and there were 4 people just stood throwing rocks into the water. And I got what I think is quite a nice shot. Although I also got my comeuppance because I was shooting with the GFX, which is a slow camera, and I didn't get a perfect frame. I got one with sort of a cocked arm, and then I got the splash, but I think a frame somewhere in the middle would have been better. But hey ho. I want to get over there. I feel like there's a reasonable chance I might sink though. Seaside soft light silhouettes. Happy James. Well, I do need some sun cream. Right, onwards. I've only cycled about 3 miles. Four miles. So no, I've definitely not earned a coffee. But I'm an adult, so I'm allowed. Also, not to get too philosophical, but here goes. I have known people do a lot of things in the pursuit of happiness, but the only thing materially that's ever really moved the needle for me is moving back to an area that I love to be in. And obviously in many cases that's not a particularly easy thing to do. It took me best part of 6 years, I think, to convince Emily that we should move back here. And obviously I had to build a career that made that possible, which hasn't been easy. But particularly on days like this, it's so worthwhile. And honestly, there is nowhere in the world I'd rather be on days like this. That's a very fulfilling feeling, to feel like that and to be able to sleep in your own bed at night. Yeah. Let's get minimal, minimal. I'd say 90% of my photography of late has been coastal, bright light, silhouettes. And partly that's because I really like that stuff. But it's mostly, I would say, a result of time of year, because the greens aren't fully out yet. Although now I'd say they're probably 70 or 80% out. So the next week or two, I might head more into the countryside and actually start using this battery. That'd be nice. If you can hear a 3-year-old singing Frozen songs, I do apologise. But at the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about that bike that I was on at the very end of the video, because I know we've got some fans of cycling that watch this channel. But for now, I should probably talk about the title of this video, because I've not done so yet, and if I don't do it soon, I'll get passive-aggressive comments saying things like, this video starts at 6 minutes, which is fair enough, because yeah, I've not talked about it yet. So, for the past 9 months-ish, I have felt completely lost as a photographer. All at sea, to be honest. Back end of last summer, I submitted my book to the printers to be printed, and for the first 36 hours or so, I felt elated, felt like a weight off my shoulders, felt like I'd achieved this massive thing. I was very proud of myself. And then, quite quickly, I realised that books are sort of like holidays, in that you need the next one planned before this one ends, otherwise you'll get holiday blues, or book blues. Now, human nature, this look at the relationship between man-made things and nature, I know for sure that I want that to underpin everything that I ever do photographically for the rest of my life. I'm obsessed with it. And in the past 9 months or so, I've taken lots of photos around the world that I think would work brilliantly in a Human Nature Volume 2 book. But the problem is I don't want to get several decades down the line and be releasing Human Nature Volume 14. I think there must be a more interesting way to do things. And whether it's looking at human nature by various locations or various ways of shooting, I don't know. I've not settled on anything for my next book or the book after that. I'm working on it. But as a consequence, the photos I've taken in the past 9 months or so have felt, for want of a better word, homeless. And you as a photographer may have no interest in publishing your own books. But what I've learned through this process is that projects, regardless of whether they're books or not, projects are oxygen for photographers. And I've realised that particularly in the past probably couple of months, because in that time I've been shooting mostly at home as we await the birth of our second child. Should be over the next couple of weeks, which is terrifying. And also in the past month or two, I've been shooting on the Fuji, mostly letterbox crops. And tell you the truth, I've no idea if I'll ever release a book which is a collection of photos from close to where I live. Similarly, I don't know if I'll ever work on a book which is just letterbox crops. But what the past couple of months has reminded me of is the power of projects, regardless of if you know the eventual medium of that project or not. Because when I go out with my camera to shoot exclusively 65 by 24 images, I'm going out to shoot for something, to add to this collection of letterbox crop images that I've created. And again, I don't know if I'll ever create books of these things. Perhaps they'll just end up as a collection of images on my website. Maybe I'll make a calendar one day. Maybe it'll just be an Instagram post. I don't know. But shooting something specific or shooting in a specific way lends a sense of purpose to the process that I have found really, really useful over the past couple of months particularly. And I say all that to say that if you have found yourself at any point with a lack of motivation to go out and shoot, if you feel a lack of sense of purpose or direction, then find a way to give yourself a creative restriction. It's really powerful. Be that a particular focal length, aspect ratio, only shooting scenes that have got yellow in them, only taking pictures of certain animals, only shooting in certain weather, I don't know. There are a million things that you can make projects of. But yeah, heading out with a criteria of what it is that you're looking for is so much easier than heading out with the camera thinking, what am I going to shoot today? And so yeah, that realisation or re-realisation has really perked me up of late. So hopefully it'll be of use to some of you as well. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you liked some of the letterbox crops. I'm trialling a black border, as you might have noticed. My images often are very bright. And this time of year, they're very, very, very bright often, which is how I like them. But I appreciate that having a white background on those very bright images may burn your retinas. So I'm trying a black background and seeing if that shows off the images any better. Let me know what you think. And also a giant thank you to the sponsor of this week's video,
Squarespace. I've just made some additions to my gear page, so I've now included the Fuji gear that I'm using, as well as some of the new bags that I'm using, which I'm finding very good. And I've also added a page on my website where I've shown some of my favourite letterbox crops taken over the past couple of months. And doing both of those things was an absolute doddle that didn't need a single line of code, and they both took a matter of minutes to do. And I think having a Squarespace website is the perfect platform for exploring this idea of projects, whether through portfolio pages, blog posts, newsletters, or even if you're going to put something together as a book or a zine or a calendar, then exploring online stores as well. My website has become absolutely integral to my business over the past 7 or 8 years, and Squarespace has been my partner the whole way through. And so a giant thank you to them for their continued support of this channel and for making fantastic products. And if you would like to try out your own Squarespace website, then you can go to squarespace.com to start a free trial. And after that, if you'd like to make a purchase, just go to squarespace.com/James to get 10% off your first purchase. Dan, yeah, a big thank you for watching. That page that I talked about, that letterbox crop collection, I'll link to in the description. And yeah, I was going to talk about something else, wasn't I? Bike. Here's some chat about the bike, if you're interested. See you next time.
Oh no, look at those tyres. Sandy clay. This is a Canyon Grizzle something or other. I think, I can't remember the name. It's not sponsored, I bought it with my own money. And for the longest time, I have been against electric bikes, for me anyway. I sort of thought they would end up being a cure for my laziness. So I wanted to avoid them for as long as I possibly could. But about 18 months ago, for reasons I can't really remember, I decided to bite the bullet and buy an electric mountain bike. And as soon as I bought that and went for a ride on it, I realised that my previous opinions about laziness were just ridiculous, because I went out for a ride on it and I got home every bit as exhausted as if I hadn't have had a battery. The only difference was that I travelled 2-3 times the distance that I would have without a battery, which as a photographer is amazing. And so that started quite a lot of thinking about whether or not I should also get an electric gravel road type bike. And this is probably more gravel than road. I mean, it's got some suspension on its fork, but it is still a drop bar bike. And this is altogether, in the UK at least, I would suggest, quite a niche product, to be honest, because in the UK there is a limit, an assistance limit of 15 miles an hour, which means above that you don't get any electric assistance. And on a drop bar bike, you typically spend a lot of time above 15 miles an hour, which renders a battery pointless. The only reason this works for me, and the only reason I decided to buy it, is because I live here in Wales, and outside of this coastal path, you're on hills more often than not, and if you're pedalling, typically it's because you're going up quite a steep hill. So I reasoned that this would help me get up the steep hills and see more of them, basically. And I've had it a few months, and so far, so good. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend something like this for most parts of the UK that are flat, because, I mean, you don't really need a battery unless you're dealing with lots of hills. You definitely don't need carbon wheels. They are absolutely overkill. And this bike was not cheap, but I reasoned that I don't need a camper van. And so this is my camper van. And I know when I say that out loud, it makes absolutely no sense. It's funny how we try and rationalise things, isn't it? But yeah, I'm hopeful that I'm going to have lots and lots of photography adventures on this thing, particularly through summer. So yeah, that's the bike.